Coaching in Session.
Your exclusive destination for unparalleled personal and professional growth.
With your host, Michael Rearden.
Whether you choose to live within limits or break free, your mindset journey begins here.
Welcome, Dr. Len Lopez, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing better now.
All right. Well, hopefully today is going to be one of the best moments of your day, so you can just say, wow, that was an amazing experience. And I know we're going to have an amazing conversation today. We are bringing you on today as not only a doctor with a nutritionist background, but also a strength and conditioning coach. We're going to be talking about all of your work you're doing and your idea, your concept of 5 steps a day, how you help people be bigger, better, and bolder. And with all that being said, if you could, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and how you help people in the world?
Okay, well, thank you for that introduction, Michael. Yeah, Dr. Len Lopez. I mean, for about the last, I hate saying how old I am, but almost 30 years, I've been working as a nutritionist, strength and conditioning coach, doing sports medicine, chiropractic sports medicine, just trying to help people get healthy naturally, and been doing that for years and years and years. Um, and I thought I'd done pretty well in there. Did various. It ended up creating a fitness product, involved in doing that, started manufacturing nutritional products, started getting a lot of good little success growing and everything, but really wasn't sure what to do with a lot of the notoriety I was getting because I was on various TV shows and doing just sharing down how to get healthy and fit and everything. One day, not too long ago, I was being interviewed for an article on health and fitness, and then they came back and said, we want to do one on body, mind, and spirit. I kind of shared them what 5 steps is all about, and they just said it just gave me the courage, the confidence that stepping out of the doctor role into personal growth, self-help, and just trying to help people move further past wherever they're at and that's what 5 steps is all about.
Okay, perfect. And we're going to get into the 5 steps momentarily. So I want you to understand, like, we're going to be breaking those steps down. But before we do that, you talked about how you help people be healthy naturally. And I know we live in a very synthetic world where everyone is looking for the quick fix. They're looking for the magic pill. They're looking for the 60-second abs, right? But there is a mindset that is needed, and sometimes doing things the healthy way could be the journey way. It takes a little bit longer, perhaps, to recover, to get better. So, what is the difference between healing and being healthy naturally versus the alternative?
I mean, that's a great question because, like you said, people are always looking for shortcuts. It's just, I think it's our natural tendency. And just like anything else, information and who do you get the information from? And sometimes one information may be coming saying, take this medication, take this medication, take this medication to fix whatever ails you. But sometimes you need to get to the cause of what's creating the problem. And I'll share one thing to begin with. I mean, so many of the patients I saw came in for problems. I mean, whether it be high blood pressure, diabetes, some of these really tough ailments, other than just aches and pains, so to speak, but some of the chronic diseases that are out there, and not realizing that what they ate, because they weren't being told that from their doctors that were talking about it. It was, take this medication to address your liver, take this medication for your intestines, take this medication for your kidneys, as opposed to, hey, it all starts with what you put in your body. You are what you eat, and to kind of move in not try to move in, but you are what you eat, and you are what you think. And if you keep on eating food that doesn't have the nourishment that the good Lord put in that food for you, it's going to leave you a little deficient. And probably the biggest thing I always saw, Michael, is that people would say, hey, doc, I'm eating real good. Here's my diet. Everything's good, good, good. And they're still having issues. And we come out to find out it's not just what you eat, it's how you eat. And people don't realize that eating on the go, on the run, in the car, in a hurry is half the problem. If we could just get people to do as we did for thousands of years, is just when it's time to eat, you sit, eat, and relax. Unfortunately, drive-throughs, hustling to go get to work, go. You're eating on the go. Unfortunately, you're turning your digestive system off when you're in that go, go, go avenue, but yet you're still throwing stuff down the chute here, and it starts rotting and putrefying. And what I've learned is that what I've seen, so many people they're okay getting bloated, gassy, irritated, and stuff like that. people can deal with that. It's not an open conversation to discuss that. They're more than happy, women and men, more than happy to tell you about how their hormones are bad, their allergies are bad, their sinuses are bad, but they're not going to tell you how bloated and full of junk they
Hmm.
have going on inside of it. That's just not normal conversation. That was, of all the various patients I would see, that was always the root of so many problems, that hormonal imbalances, PMS, mood swings, irritation. They were just all offshoots of the first problem, the poor digestion. And if you don't get that right, everything else is downstream of that. And it's kind of like the domino effect.
I start to think about the aspect of how so many people are in this deficient type of diet and nutrition. And it has to stem from somewhere. Does it stem from society? Does it stem from bad parenting? Or does it stem from a lack of educational prowess to the foods that we eat and consume every day?
I bet you it's probably a bit of all of that. Okay, because everybody's different. I mean, I always tell my wife and my kids that you look at every house in the neighborhood, they're all dealing with different avenues, because whether it's two parents, one parent, whether they both work, whether one's home or not, finances of, can you eat this way or that way? And for one of our headaches we have in our house, I hate saying it this way, but I'm the old guy with younger kids, and just trying to get them to and from all their after school activities. I mean, it's just, yeah, we're at Chick-fil-A, we're at Raising Cane's, grabbing food on the go and everything with them also. But you have to kind of get that balance. And when you can eat together and do it properly, you want to eat right and everything. But so often, just our schedules just go, go, go. I mean, on the weekend, sometimes we can all five of us sit together and have a nice dinner together, our breakfast and stuff like that. But just society's got so busy for us.
Yeah, it's about intention also, I found, because my wife and I do the same things where it's like we have our kids and we're busy with them, and all of a sudden we're like, wait, let's slow down a little bit. Let's just take a day, right? So Sunday, maybe we'll say, all right, Sunday, we're just gonna cook. We're just gonna meal prep like we did before we had kids. And then so it's this one of those things where we take it back to where we know where we're in control. And right now people are out of control with all the foods they're eating, all the calories they're intaking, and they're wondering why there's an obesity epidemic here in America and maybe even around the world at this point, because we have gone so far from our hunters and gatherer type of living, where we live a very sedate life today, where people are having all of these ailments because they're not taking care of themselves rather than they're being active and they're getting hurt with sports injury or something like that. Literally someone who was probably sitting too long and they have a sciatica or something like that. It's like where are all these problems coming from? And it's because we're just not moving quite a bit. And I just love this idea of 5 steps a day and this idea of just taking some level of action, because when we think of 5 steps we can think of it in two ways: the 5 steps that we have to be taking, or just simply taking steps in a day. So there's just two aspects to that, but we're going to be diving into that. But if you could, can you start to break down what your 5 steps are and how you came about it?
Well, I guess it came about it because when I was treating my patients, working with them, they were mostly coming for various health issues, right? Health and fitness issues. And so my simple protocol to help them see things the way I wanted them, because in my opinion, I think there's some diets that are out there that are just way too stringent. And I mean that not in a bad way, just that they're saying follow this, and I think sometimes some people, when they read it, when they miss the ball a bit, they completely throw everything up in the air, and then they're done with it. And so I said, just imagine every week you have an opportunity to take 21 steps towards better health. 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, and everything. We've all seen those little footprints in the sand and everything. It's kind of a great visual thing. And so I don't expect you to have 21 great meals this coming week. But I would be nice if you can have maybe 17 or 18 good meals, and maybe three. I mean, I call it the 5 and 2 dieting plan, and I didn't coin that. I copied that from somebody else. 5 days treat your body like a temple. 2 days treat it like an amusement park. But that doesn't mean have 6 bad days of eating, or you could. But as I always say, and talking about the each step. And STEPS is just an acronym for sleep, think, eat, physical, and spirit. When you eat, I'm not asking you, did you eat perfect today? Did you eat better today? Did you eat right? Did you eat at least more good meals than bad? If you had 3 good meals, great breakfast, really good lunch, dinner, you went out with my friends, splurged, it was a birthday, something going on. 2 steps forward and 1 step backward still has you moving in the right direction. And so often patients would always tell me that, yeah, I was doing good, and then all of a sudden I cheated that one day, and then they were completely off. They were just completely on the wrong side of the road now. And so that's kind of how 5 steps came about, because you don't have to be perfect every day, and because for you and I, or for various people, their idea of what's good and healthy is different. For some people, just skipping a dessert for meals, right? Not having a second serving, is something. Others would say, no, it has to be grass fed, it has to be organic, it has to be this. So everybody's on a different page, but we're just steps. It's just an accountability journal that you can look and quickly see in 2 minutes, how good are you feeding your body? How good are you feeding your mind? How good are you feeding your spirit? And so that's what it's designed to do.
Perfect. And we're going to be breaking that down into two categories: a food category and a level of activity category. I believe when it comes to the foods that we eat, it's going to be a preference. For example, maybe you don't like seafood, so you don't eat seafood. Maybe you don't want to eat red meat or pork, right? So you don't eat it. And it's going to be some level of preference for the foods that we are going to be consuming in our day. But are there foods that we should learn to avoid, or foods that we should learn to incorporate into our diets more readily?
Of course, natural food is the best. Okay, but
Okay.
here's the point I would try to drive home, because I know your audience is broad, right? And not everybody's in the same shape you're in or I'm in, and so there are just different levels. But when I think about eat, okay, just did you eat better today? Okay, did you eat right? Not perfect. I mean, because some of the books I've seen and read, parts of diet books, I mean, they get real picky about, okay, you can't use agave, you can't use monk fruit, you can't, it's just a little too. Did you eat better? Did you leave off the second serving? Because somebody that may be 40 pounds overweight, they need the slower steps to begin with. Okay, and so you don't try to get them out in the gym in the first day and put them through this bull workout. And so you don't take somebody that 30, 40 pounds overweight, or just in with some health issues. Let's just start eating better. And let me just add one thing about eating, guys, that I think is really important from my point of view, from being able to see patients and everything, is that people always assume, okay, I got to count the carbs, this, that, and the other, and the fat. It just don't. The biggest mistake is eating a. I'm going to have my dessert. Today's my dessert. When I have my pig out ice cream meal, it's typically by itself. I mean, it's just almost a whole carton gone. That was it. I had a good breakfast. I cheated at lunchtime. That was my lunch, the whole thing. Dinner time, I had a decent dinner again. And so, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I still made progress, overall. Now, as we were saying a minute ago, too often people say, "Oh, I'll cheat at lunch," and let me get that piece of pie here, probably. Oh yeah, let me have that. Dinner time comes around again. Okay, oh, if somebody else is having some dessert, let me get some of that also. So you're always making it just worse for yourself. And so make it a good meal. And I really say that to go back to what we were talking about, all the digestive distress so many people have. When you have as I said, so many people struggle with the untold stories of bloating, gas, indigestion, diarrhea, things like that. And the worst mistake I do, if I'm going to go out and have a really nice dinner, and do the fish and the steak or whatever it might be, and the good salad and all that stuff, I'm not going to have dessert. Now my wife kills me, because she says, I just had a really great protein rich meal. It's going to digest. We're relaxing and everything, but I don't want to throw all this sugar in there, because that sugar is going to really create headaches inside your stomach and everything, where you're not going to let your body break the food down appropriately, and then that starts the roller coaster ride of your digestive problems starting happening. And so when I cheat, I cheat.
Mhm.
But I think doing the little bitty cheat meals throughout the day, adding the junk to your good meal is the worst thing because it starts setting up poor digestion. And then the 3 weeks go by, 6 weeks go by, and all of a sudden the mood swings, the headaches, things like that start occurring, and you're not sure what it is. And when they come to me and I talk to them, and they get mad because it's not a hard diet, but it's just the diet that we've been following for, as you were talking about, for thousands of years. Just eat all the fish, chicken, beef, eggs, fruits, and veggies you want, nuts and seeds. But don't eat the fruits with your food and everything because that's not a really good combination for the body. And so that's kind of where that happens.
I think of all the people now when they're thinking about eating better. So they might say, all right, I had McDonald's yesterday. I'm going to have Chipotle the next day or something along those lines. Yes, Chipotle is better. But when we're thinking of, what I think natural food is, it's not so much as someone making it for you, but you're making it for yourself. And I know there's meal preps companies that do a really good job at making things natural. And I think that's, going to be an investment for some people. But then it also has to be a mindset too. Like, are you going to commit to it? Because maybe the first day or the first week you get these meals and you're like, okay, great, it's nice, and I'm eating the food, but then maybe you just get hungry, like you just get hungrier, and you're saying, well, maybe I'll eat two of these meals or three of these meals, and before you know it, a week's worth of food is gone in 2 days.
Right, right.
So people just have this idea of overeating, and when we're looking at how much food does our body need, is there a way to calculate that for a person to understand this is how much food I need to consume, or how do I know when I'm truly full?
I don't know. There's a real accurate way. It's what we're eating today, and so much of it is carb loaded. And one thing that's important as far as eating, I'm not saying you should eat nothing but fat and everything. I know a lot of the protein diets and stuff like that, a carnivore diet, they're a good diet for you. And one of the benefits from them is a lot of time because you quit loading up with all the sugar in your body from whether it is even a natural sugar. From a vegetable and everything, but did you combine it appropriately? So we do a lot of food combining with the patients when I was full time at that, right? Because steak and baked potato, not a great combination. Fajitas, beans and rice, not good mixing a protein with the starchy carbohydrate because they just don't blend very well. And so that's why I say when you look at if you look at this, the wild kingdom out there, you never see the lion or the cheetah out there eating his prey and then getting some berries over here. And it's just you eat one thing, you're done with it. But that seems so foreign. And the big deal here is oh, look, you need a plate here with all the different colors on there. No, we've never eaten like that. It's just whatever you can find, you sit there and put on the plate and you eat that. We don't have to have 4 or 5 different things on there with all the different colors because it's just, you're creating more distress for the body when you do that. So yeah, there's some really, if anybody struggling out there, food combining can do a great thing to help calm down an inflamed, irritated tummy.
And then also, if anyone is having a really hard time and they're still confused, this is the perfect time. Reach out to Dr. Lopez. He's going to be able to guide you through it. Now, I wanted to also talk about the levels of fitness. And I know you talked about how someone's maybe 40 pounds overweight or something like that. Maybe day one is not them going to the gym and doing CrossFit for 5 hours at some point, but it's maybe gradual levels of fitness increases, maybe just walking through the mailbox, walking around the block. Maybe if you do go to the gym, going on the treadmill for a little bit, or maybe on the bike for half a mile, or whatever it be. Like, you start small. And I know some people think when they're diving into fitness, maybe they get a trainer, maybe they get a gym membership, and they have this idea of skin in the game, and they're like, I invested some level of money into this, I want to get my money's worth. And so they might really push themselves for a period of time and they burn out. We can see that happen every single year for New Year's resolutions, where they're starting very strong, right? They're motivated, they have the momentum, they're giving themselves all these tools and resources, but then all of a sudden it's like they just kind of fall back into where they were. So what is your advice for someone who's trying to increase their level of activity to get more steps in their day, or to get to the goal weight, using some level of workouts that is going to be not only appropriate for them, but sustainable for them?
Well, that's a great question. Here's one thing I always tell everybody. And when you think about it, you go, ooh, that does make sense. For so many people, people don't realize exercise is another stress on the body. And for a lot of people, the intensity of your exercise could be stressful on your body. And I always say, you may be at a stress level here that your body can handle. Here's how much your body can handle. Right now, you're living right here. And I'll say, I'm going to start working out. And all of a sudden, maybe that's too much stress on your body. And that's why you're feeling pretty good for the first couple of weeks, 3 weeks though, but then you're not getting the same benefit. You're not feeling good because you're not training smart. And I always talk about you have to train smart. Exercise is a double-edged sword. Yes, if you want to build lean muscle, you have to push your body to get that testosterone hit, but you have to make sure that when the biggest mistake I see when people try to do an aerobic workout, the nice, easy aerobic workout, they're all going faster than they are aerobically conditioned for, which makes it yes, they went out and did something physical, shading the P for being physical, but they didn't get as much benefit for their body because it was too intense for their body at the pace they were going to give them the benefit that they were looking for. And I mean, when I was in practice, we used to hand out heart rate monitors for people to go out for doing their aerobic exercise. This has nothing to do with doing strength training. But when you're trying to get your aerobic workout, most people are doing their aerobic workout at a pace that's faster than their little heart's conditioned for. And so they go above their aerobic threshold, which means now they're anaerobic. Now they're only burning sugars, carbs, and protein. They're not burning fat. And there's a big difference between burning calories and burning calories from stored body fat. And that's why we always talk about, train smart and, more stress on your body, but do your aerobic workout to burn fat at the right pace. When it's time to sit there and get that testosterone hit, because you want that, do that good and hard and strong, because that's how you get that testosterone hit. But too often, I say one of the three things I say, people let their ego get in the way. They think I was a stud back when I was in high school. I'm going to start working out. They go out there, you see them in the neighborhood. They look like they're 20, 30, 40 pounds overweight. And you could just see them it just looks like they're really struggling out there. And I go, he's going too fast. And those are the kind of patients I would see all the time. Just slow down, make it aerobic, burn fat when you're doing your aerobic workout. Now it's time, if you want to add muscle, because there's a big difference between burning calories and burning the fat and flab. And that's just one of the biggest mistakes out there. But to get it back to the step, as long as you're doing something great, but like my dad would always say, work smart and train smart, and so that's what I always eat right, train smart.
What is the formula or the threshold that the heart rate has to be at? I think the age is a factor, but is there kind of a guideline that you can give people to kind of at least understand if they're trying to maybe increase their cardio a little bit, but not to the levels where they're not getting a benefit?
Great question, because this is something I see all the time because, we've all seen those charts on the gym wall and everything, or in the book
Right.
online, everything. It says, whatever your age is, subtract your age from 220 and then multiply it by 0.7. Your aerobic threshold is about 70% of your max heart rate. So like if you're like 40 years of age, you take 220 minus 40, it's 180. Then times it by 0.7, it's about 135 beats a minute. Well, people get out there and they're like, I'm barely moving. I think, my heart's already beating this fast. And I go, yeah, because you're that deconditioned. And so the average for most people, and it's called your aerobic threshold, according to all the science books out there, medical books, your aerobic threshold, a lot of times if you're into the health and fitness world, you might call it your fat burning zone. And as your heart increases and starts going, because you went from sitting to walking to jogging to running faster, your heart rate elevates. And there's a point, everybody has it, it's around 70% for the average person. Here's the mistake I think people make, especially here in the States, is that, okay, 70%, let me do that. They're not taking into consideration that they're 30 pounds overweight, 20 pounds overweight. Just like the average person like myself might be 70, I'm a little higher than 70%, but 70%. The Grant Fishers of the world, the Olympic medalist here in the United States, he's like at 85%. Okay, if you're an elite runner, cyclist, one of those guys out there, your aerobic threshold is up here. But just like he got those elite runners, triathletes, and cyclists, just how they slowly moved their aerobic threshold up, the person that's 20 pounds overweight, 30 pounds overweight, they become deconditioned. So their threshold is down to 65%, 60%, because just a good brisk walk already has their heart going like this on them. They don't know that until they put a heart monitor on. They go, holy cow, I didn't know my heart was beating at 85%. And so that's the real secret of it right there, because when you keep it below there, and I do a short little video talking about the 4 big benefits of training smart. And one is just fat loss, the other one is anti-aging. Because when you train above here, you're creating more free radical damage in your body. And unless you make sure you put enough of the good nutrients in your body, still, you're cashing checks your body can't handle and everything like that. You're putting more out than your body's taking back in because you're training too hard for yourself. And so, slow is easy for aerobic. When it comes to anaerobic, again, strength training, go for it.
One of the reasons I love having guests like yourself on is because all of this is extremely confusing for an individual, especially when they're beginning. It can be daunting. It's like, oh my goodness, like, what do I eat? What do I do? The workouts. And most people, they say it's too much work for me to even start. And one of the reasons why, as I was saying, you know, to have someone come on that can not only say what needs to be done, but to do it in a way that is easy for the mind to comprehend, and then also to be an asset for people to say, hey, if you want to go on this journey, or if you want to get into better health, better fitness, we can do that together. Versus, okay, I'm going to let you do it by yourself. You need to figure this out by yourself. And what happens when people do that, they will start for some time and maybe they do the work. And before you know it, it's like, wait, this is a lot of work. Because very similar to how you say or said the body is stressed when it's working out, and you might be stressed in real life, you're giving yourself more stress to learn all of this stuff. I don't know if people realize, like, like when they go to college is very stressful because all the things that you have to do, the deadlines, the papers, the professors, everything in college can be very stressful. And you don't know that you have that level of stress until you're done with college.
Right.
And when you're done with college, you get your degree, you're like, whoa, that was like a huge weight lifted from you. And guess what you do? You say, well, I had a lot of stress then. Let me give me some more stress. But the stresses that you're giving yourself are not good stresses. So you might say, I'm gonna eat a little bit more junk food, but because I'm not on the soccer team anymore, I don't have to look good for girls because I got married or whatever. You're basically saying at some point in your life, it's okay to just say, everything I have worked for, we can just kind of forego it. And one of my final questions to you is the issue with not looking at your health long term, not saying, okay, today I'm here, tomorrow I want to be there. So many people, they get to a point, let's say a goal weight, but they don't think about maintaining it. They just say, yeah, I got my goal weight because I'm going to a wedding. And then all of a sudden they're gaining back all the weight. I got to my stress level that I feel most comfortable with, but then they're giving themselves more stress, getting an Airbnb. So it's like we're giving ourselves all of these ailments for, I guess you could say, a more worse health. If I want to use words incorrectly, I'm going to say that. But people, they could be giving themselves maybe a less stressful life, or they can give themselves a more focused life, starting with their diet, starting with their physical fitness. And of course, it's easier when you give yourself guides, mentors, doctors in your corner helping you along the way. But just this idea now of health is not just when you're 20 or you're in your 30s, it could be a lifetime.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, your points are well taken and everything. And so many people just they need the direction, but they need motivation. They need to know where they want to go, and to kind of pull it back to goal setting. And I know that you talk a lot about that and everything. And you want to get your ideal goal, your ideal weight, your ideal fitness level and everything. And so this is kind of about what do you want to achieve. And a lot of time when people finally get there, they realize that it may not have been as hard as they thought it was to get physically fit when you train smart. And again, this goes back to so often. I'll see people, oh, I started working out again and I was doing good for the first 3 weeks, about a month and everything. And then it just wasn't feeling good because they weren't training smart. They were just doing too much, it was too much for their little heart sometimes because they do their aerobic workout. I'm a huge fan of any kind of workout you do, but so often, you don't get the benefit because you don't realize that you're not as conditioned as you think you are. And so your easy workout becomes more stressful on their body. And we used to give out heart rate monitors. Not one person ever came back said, no, I was within my zone. Everybody came back. The trainers came back. I had elite runners. I had elite cyclists coming. Yep, I can't believe I was training that fast, or my heart was going that fast out there. So, you know, exercise is great for you, but like anything else, it can be bad if you do just too much of it and you don't know when you're over the edge. And so a heart rate monitor is and just FYI, I'm a big fan of the ones that that go across the chest because I've noticed that they are much more accurate as opposed to, people are tracking their steps here and there, but it's when you use it for the heart, you get the chest strap. I think it's much more accurate, and it's a good thing when you do it right. And you were talking a minute ago about stress. Yeah, going out and hitting the heavy bag and doing running because to get rid of some of that mental stress at work. Great, you blew off some steam, but you put more physical stress onto your body that you're still back on the wrong side of the road as far as too much stress on your body. So you have to make sure you're getting the right guidance or movement or to get where you're at, because everybody's at a different level.
Yeah, very true. I like the idea of, like it's too much for your little heart. And I know all the audience members in coaching session, they have big hearts, they have big goals, lofty mindsets, and this is all great. But there is a starting point sometimes that we have to understand this is where we are today. Maybe we can only do so much today, and that's fine because we can level up. So right now we might be at a low level. Okay, sure. But it doesn't mean tomorrow we can't be better than what we were the day before. So we have to give ourselves this idea that we can make proper steps to our better health or our better mindsets or a better life in general. It just takes a lot of focus and it takes a lot of discipline. And when you're doing things by yourself, it could be daunting. But when you give yourself a team, doctor, a nutrition, like a mentor or coach, someone that can just say, hey, I'm seeing what you're doing, right? I appreciate that. But let's dial back a little bit. Let's refocus, right? Let's go in a different direction. And that is how champions are born. We look at all the greats, Kobe, Michael, these people had coaches, and not just the basketball coach. I'm talking about they had like physical therapists, they had life coaches, they had people helping them with their mind and their body more than what they even knew, and they became great. And that greatness is possible for you is basically what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of what I talk about. The other steps. The sleep and the think. Again, 5 steps is just an accountability journal. And the think part is you are what you eat, you are what you think. If you can put that 1 or 2 minutes into your head that I am bigger, better, bolder, I am healthy, wealthy, and wise. Whatever phrase you're going to come up for yourself, you don't have to share with anybody, but you have to believe when you step out on the court, step out on the mat. When you step up to the microphone, to step up to anything that's going to require that you need to do well. You're going to do a presentation. You have to have confidence in yourself that you can do well at that. And if you walk in there, I think it was Henry Ford said, if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And so if you walk up there thinking that you can't, why is it him going to the free throw line in the last second? And if you let yourself hear that internally, and again, that's what part of the steps are all about, that internal conversation. Are you trying to move some of that internal conversation? And it's up to you. You can't, when kids are little, I don't know how old your kids are, but you're always trying to teach them that they can do it. You can't, don't be afraid, jump in the water, when they're 2 years old, and just, you can do this, you can do that. And it's amazing how when you get older, it's easy to think the worst, to think more negatively. That's just that we're inherent, that our mentality is to think more on the fearful negative side. But you have to put enough good thoughts in there to say, I can do this, like Michael and Kobe, they can do what they want to. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to go on the court. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to get first chair in the band. I'm going to get that promotion. I'm going to get that office. You have to see and visualize what you want. And so what goes on between your ears is tremendous and everything. And that's all we're trying to do when I got shared that 5 steps with the magazine one day, and they said this is kind of a neat little way to kind of track yourself, other than tracking yourself with your physical 10,000 steps. Here's a way to see how your 5 steps is how you're feeding your body, how you're feeding your mind, how you're feeding your spirit. And I think we need all three of those legs to really hold you up strongly, sir. That's not a good way of saying that, but to hold you up
Mhm.
confidently.
Everything you said is spot on. We have lost some of our roots. We have forgot where we have came from the foods we eat to the activity level of where we were. You talked about young kids. Young kids before will be running around on the playground and doing everything, and now they're inside on their iPads and PlayStations and doing all of these things. So the level of fitness is very different, and the world that we're diving into is very different. But it doesn't mean that we have to stay in that different. It doesn't mean we have to be victims of what the world is saying that we should do or what everyone else is doing. So you can take action, whether it be yourself or your family. You can say, today is the day that I'm going to make some big steps toward the goals that I'm trying to reach in my life. And I believe that what we talked about today can be foundational blocks for you to level up. And it's important that you have, as I was saying, someone on your side. And Dr. Lopez, before we go, I would love for you to instill some final thoughts, some final words into people, and then of course for you to let people know how they can reach out to you, begin working with you, and then just start the process.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're just trying to help people um, improve where they're at. And when I was in practice, the people would come for their health problems, but as they were sitting there helping them, they would just share so much about what's going on in their life. And it's amazing how I felt like I was a part-time counselor, so to speak. And but you could just see that a lot of it was not just what they put in their mouth, which is what they were primarily coming for me, but what we think, what we put in our head. And I mean, I think too, we've been talking about it for like 2,000 years. A man is as a man thinketh. We've always heard that. And, it's been out there, and sometimes people just don't realize that they've set themselves up to allow that stinking thinking to just continue. And all I'm trying to tell people to, hey, just start putting a little bit of, it takes a drop here and a drop there. It may take a while to fill up that cup, but if you keep putting a drop in, eventually it's going to overflow. You'll get enough in there. How long is it going to take, this person to do it? Like anything else, you take somebody else, start training them physically. One person will respond faster than somebody else, right? And I guess I should have really used an analogy more like trying to teach somebody a dance step. Something that may be a little bit more foreign to most people, but they'll go, okay, here's the dance step you got to do. And somebody will pick it up in 3 minutes. Somebody takes 30 minutes because they just don't have that coordination. And so the same way we're trying to, self-improvement for yourself. What do you need to do? How long is it going to take you before you really catch on and say, yeah, I guess I do. I don't really put any good thoughts in my head. I'm always thinking the worst out there. And 1 to 2 minutes of telling myself that I'm bigger, better, bolder is at least 1 or 2 minutes that I'm not beating myself up. And so the more you can do that the drop here, drop there, and just throughout the day, you are what you eat, you are what you think. How are you feeding your body? How are you feeding your mind? How are you feeding your spirit? So if somebody's struggling in any of those areas, I encourage them, please check out 5 Steps a Day. You can download it on Google and Apple. And it's just a way, it's kind of like Seinfeld's calendar. If you're familiar with Seinfeld's calendar, it'll take you 2 minutes, but you're just shading in the steps, and it's really tapping into those visual and kinesthetic learners when they start seeing, ooh, I did good. I took 4 steps, and then next day I took 3 steps. Ooh, I only took one step. And there's something about visually seeing that can be very helpful. And plus, when you see it, when you do good and you do shade in 3 or 4 or 5 steps, you get that nice endorphin hit that you don't really know, but it just gives you that, it makes you feel better about yourself. And if you do it again tomorrow and then tomorrow, pretty soon you'll get that dance step down and you'll know you're in the right direction and everything.
It's like the a sticker book for adults where you shade in and you're like, whoa, this feels good. And that can be life, right? Life can feel good again. And maybe you are a person right now who has those two left feet and you're doing everything wrong and it's taking you longer to do things, but it doesn't mean you can't turn that bad boy around and then get that 2 step in the right way. It does take some time, it does take some effort, but I'm going to make it easy for everyone. Check down the check down in the description box below for all of the links of Dr. Len Lopez. And of course, begin that process. It's not going to be an instant fix. And I want people to understand, we talked about in the beginning, everyone's looking for that quick fix. And I think like a quick fix is like duct tape on a bumper. Eventually, that bumper is coming off, all right? Whether you like it or not, you can put as much duct tape as you want. It's coming off, right? Sometimes the quick fixes are not what we need, right? So do the work. Don't be afraid to dive in. And I do want to thank you, Dr. Lopez, for coming on, spending some time, and of course, talking about your work and how you help people.
Hey, Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate everything. Thank you for all you're doing for everybody else out there as well.